the hardest part of that ring.
For the hardest part of the ring.
Hello and welcome to episode 181 of Hardest Part of the Ring, the pod friends. Goodness, wow. The podcast where some friends get together to celebrate the wonder of professional wrestling. And today it is singular, friend. It is the tag team of Hardest Part of the Ring. Because I am Sam. I'm joined by John.
Hello. I was thinking about this earlier. Are we the shortest people on the podcast?
Oh, I don't know if we are, because I know Brett is also quite short. I know Adam is freakishly tall, but...
Well, compared to us, small
yeah,
folks.
especially compared to us. How tall are you, John?
5'6", 5'7".
So, yeah, like, we're the same height, and I think Brett is probably 5'6", 5'7", though. Like, he can't defend himself here. He's a bit of a sloucher, so he might actually be 6 foot tall.
Terrible posture as old Brett.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, like, I've seen that back, and if he was to straighten his back out, I think we'd be 6'7", 6'8".
Mm.
But it's got to keep that Daniel Bryan look going, so... just the two of us today. Adam, make up an excuse for Adam.
Busy.
Adam's too busy for wrestling.
Aren't we all, though?
We are, actually.
Mr. Cracker, though. Good Lord.
I was going to say, because we are here today to discuss AEW and New Japan present Forbidden Door. Forbidden Door? I hate this phrase.
I quite like the sort of...
It's a bit broken English, isn't it? Like, just...
Is it?
I don't know. Maybe not. It's just two weird words put together, I think.
I just quite like the referencing of, like, wrestling terminology. Like, I know it's quite smarky, but I quite like it.
Oh, you're going to love their Fight Forever video game that they make.
That looks pretty rough. Have you seen some screens?
Yeah, I've heard nothing but bad things, I think. I just don't know. Don't make wrestling simulator games. Make arcade wrestling games. That's what people want.
Yeah.
But yeah, AEW and New Japan presents Forbidden Door, taking place at the United Center in Chicago, with an attendance of 16,529 smarks.
Not bad. Is it just me, or does it feel like AEW is in Chicago every other week?
I think this was put in place with the idea of a big CM Punk event, and obviously injuries have played a key role in this pay-per-view. We've had a lot of them leading up to it, so the plan obviously didn't quite go ahead, and yet they put together something anyway. A huge comms team of rotating people, so we'll just go through the key ones, which are Excalibur, Kevin Kelly, Taz, and then had a few different people. We had what's his name from Ring of Honor that I can't remember.
Oh yeah,
Maurice. Had a bit of Jim Ross in there, a little bit of Tony Schiavone. It's a good combo.
Did he com any matches, Tony?
Tony did the Sting one.
Oh right, wow.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Kevin Kelly for ages because I haven't watched him. Great comms guy. Oh, so good.
Fantastic comms guy. Looking old.
Oh, aren't we all?
Oh yeah, we all are. Pandemic was rough, and we had to get through it somehow.
Underrated comms guy in my book.
He is good. You know, it's a shame they weren't able to bring back. Oh goodness, what's his name? Kenny Omega's Don Callis.
Don Callis, yeah, that would have been. But when it was him and Kevin Kelly on New Japan, it was so good. Yeah,
the glory days, wasn't it? With just Don Callis, absolute piece of shit, Bullet Club sympathiser. But John, what was the card?
It's a long one. Brace yourself. There were 4 bloody matches on the buy-in. On the buy-in, we had Goto and Yoshihashi versus Aaron Solo, who I've never heard of, and QT Marshall. We also had Lance Archer versus Nick Komoto.
Yeah, close enough.
Then we had Swerve in Our Glory, which is Keith Lee, and Swerve Strickland versus Suzuki Gun, El Desperado, and Kanemaru. And finally on the buy, we had Max Caster and the Gun Club versus the Young Lions of the New Japan LA Dojo.
Did you watch any of the buy-in?
Absolutely not. No.
No, same.
I would. The swerve in our glory versus Sukigan one sounds pretty good.
El Desperado's been doing some big things in New Japan in recent years. He's worked his way up to kind of contender for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight and has won it in recent time. Kanemaru, Yoshinobu Kanemaru is still Kanemaru. He drinks Suntory and he spits it in your face, and that's still okay in COVID times.
I don't know if I know who that is. I need to look at Google him.
He's all right. Yeah, he's not really. He's just kind of.
I always hated Yoshihashi. Oh my word, I hate him.
So Yoshihashi has a face like a fish. Like, he's very dislikable just for being, I don't know, just his face. Is that really? I feel like that's an awful thing to say about someone.
He always reminds me of someone that's gone to like an anime con, but he's in his mid-40s and is desperately trying to look cool.
Yes, that's so mean and so true. It's funny because like Yoshihashi for me always reminds me of like someone's younger brother who wants to be cool but just doesn't quite fit in. Like he's Okada's like little brother who's been forced to take with him somewhere. So I kind of want to love Yoshihashi because of how much we dislike him.
I think there's a bit when I was watching New Japan quite regularly where like the crowd absolutely hated him.
I think everyone does. I think it's just the everything. It's the gimmick. It's the look. It's the carrying around that giant stupid pole. Just, I don't know. I want to love Yoshihashi, but we don't. We hate him.
No one does.
So, kind of indiscriminately as well. But then we go over to the main card.
Main card. So kicked off with Eddie Kingston, Wheeler Yuta, and Shota Umio, Red Shoe Son, Umio, versus Minoru Suzuki and the Jericho Appreciation Society, which was Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. Then we had tag team action for the ROH and New Japan tag titles, which was United Empire of Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb versus Roppongi Vice versus FTR. Then for the All Atlantic Championship, a new AEW belt, we had Clark Connors versus Miro versus Malachi Black versus Puck. Then we had trios match of dudes with attitude. You can tell Sting came up with that name, I reckon. Sting and Darby Allin and Shingo Takagi versus Bullet Club, which is Young Bucks and El Phantasmo. Sorry, Sam.
Yeah, Dudes with Attitudes is a throwback to an old version of that tag team. It's a little bit like kind of how there's been like 20 versions of the Four Horsemen. There's been a few different versions of Dudes with Attitudes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure.
Well, it's on the record now, Sam. So
that's how we roll.
Then we had Thunder Rosa versus Tony Storm. Was this a title match? I assume it was.
It was a title match, yes.
Then we had Orange Cassidy versus Will Ospreay for the IWGP United States Championship. Then we had Zack Sabre Jr. versus a mystery opponent. Then we had a fatal four-way for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, which was Okada versus Jay White versus Hangman Adam Page versus Adam Cole. And then to tap things off for the AEW World Championship, we had Jon Moxley versus Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Very nicely done. Now, traditionally, in days gone past, we would choose a few key matches. We'd discuss them all in kind of detail. More or less, we'd kind of get offset and then eventually end up talking about Goldust. We're not doing that today. We're going straight in. We're going to talk about every match.
Full card pod.
This is how we roll. It's an Iron Man pod with John and Sam.
How many matches are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Only 9. Just breeze through this.
Only 9 matches, and they'll be talked about in mixed amounts of details. So we start off with Kingston, Yuta, Umino versus Jericho Appreciation Society and Suzuki. Huge pops for Suzuki.
He's so over, and he always is.
His entrance. People just love him. He's so great. And seeing him in the ring with Eddie Kingston is an absolute pleasure just because of how good Kingston is.
I think those were the best moments on this. I enjoyed this match a lot, but the best moments were definitely Suzuki versus Kingston. Like when they were chopping each other and the way they were selling each other's chops. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, absolutely amazing stuff. I mean, Jericho Appreciation Society, I think, is a bit take it or leave it. I think kind of maybe it's taking a little bit too much time up in AEW at the moment for something which I don't think is as interesting as other things. But
yeah, and maybe we'll come back to this at the main event about. Cause yeah, I agree.
But,
I can't believe Sammy and Ty Conti are still coming. Like, mate, it's
I mean,
working. It's getting. It's
at
getting
least
heat.
they've turned them heel,
Oh my
right?
god, so much heat.
That's the thing, is that you had to turn them heel because, my God, were fans hating them. I just do not understand it at all. How, like, they thought that was ever not going to end up with them as. Yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult one.
Yeah. What I
yeah.
really liked in this match is obviously I like the callback to obviously at Wrestle Kingdom where Jericho put Red Shoes' son Shota in the Lion Tamer, and they sort of had their little get together in this match as well, which I thought was very cool.
It's good to see Shota Umino as well, kind of like a step beyond being a young lion.
Do you reckon all the New Japan guys get their hair done at the same place? Because it's all very similar.
It's very
like
feathered,
edge,
isn't it?
very feathered edges, a lot of volume.
I like to think Tanahashi does all their hair. He's like the Natalia of New Japan, just in the back, kind of being a mother hen to them all.
He's got to get, he's thinking about his retirement now, how else he's going to supplement his income.
John, would you let Tanahashi do your hair?
Oh, God, I tell you what, it'd be nice to do it for like a day just to see what it was like.
When I used to have shoulder length hair, I definitely got the older straighteners and did the old kind of flick out like that at one point.
I used to have a big emo fringe across my forehead, and I used to get hair straighteners out on that as well.
John, we were used to be so cool. Now look at us talking about wrestling.
Japanese wrestling, though, it's nothing cooler than that.
That's true, actually. Speaking of Japanese wrestling, we'll move on straight away to. Do we have anything further to add to the 6-man?
No, just that I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought it was. I thought I was going to this was going to be one of my least favourite matches in the card, but it was seriously good fun.
That's cool. I was relatively indifferent to this match. I think kind of the Jericho Appreciation Society is a little bit like you just got to be in the right mood for it. And yeah, I think it was fine. So, straight on from that, we had the IWGP Tag Team Championship match and Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship match. FTR versus United Empire versus Roppongi Vice. And, wow, this was a good match. Really good.
On a card, because I think AEW on their pay-per-view cards is really good for putting in these big, like, emotional matches where you really take you on a journey. Obviously, because of the way this card's been put together and the build, there hasn't really been that match. But I think this match kind of gives you that with the story of FTR and... yeah, absolutely. Is it Dax? No, Cash, right? Cash
Wheeler was the one with the injury, I think.
So, do you reckon...
Oh, no, it wasn't. No, it was Dax. Dax got injured.
Do you reckon that was shoot or do you reckon kayfabe?
No, apparently he's had a separated shoulder.
God, blimey.
Yeah, which is kind of shit because obviously FTR at the moment are Trouble AR tag champions. They're the Ring of Honor tag champions. Now they're the IWGP tag champions, which is insane, by the way. Like, considering that you could add to that the NXT, the SmackDown and the Raw tag team championships. And have they held the Impact tag championships? Because if not, I'd be quite worried.
Yeah, well, so is he going to be out for a while?
Oh, I'm not sure. I only read that briefly, and it could very much well be that. Like, AEW at the moment having an absolute injury nightmare with a lot of their wrestlers.
I honestly thought it was kayfabe. The way it played into the match, the fact he came back, I just thought it was a really good story.
It was a very strange injury overall.
But they didn't actually make a lot of it on commentary like he was.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
It was a very strange one. How do we feel about United Empire, just generally? I mean, obviously we'll come to this a bit later on as well, but...
I like Jeff Cobb. Mm-hmm. I've never seen Great O'Khan before, but I like the turnbuckle sitting on the head spot.
So, Great O'Khan is... I didn't know anything about him before he teamed up with Will Ospreay, but in that time, he's done the Perry Saturn. He's stopped a sexual assault, which is a good thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which got kind of like into the news headlines, and he's got a cool gimmick. Seems like a decent guy. I quite like this whole kind of Jiangxi vampire sort of look. And he's got some really fun stuff. I love the kiss my foot spot that he was trying to do.
I tell you what, I don't get. Why are Roppongi Vice back together?
Okay, so this is a difficult one because I don't like Roppongi Vice one bit, and it's nothing against either of the individual wrestlers. I think Rocky Romero is a good wrestler, and I just think Trent Beretta is better with Kentucky Gentleman. God, what's his name? Blanking here. Chuck Taylor.
Yeah.
I loved Best Friends, and I thought they were nailed on future AEW champions. And I think this move is a step backwards for them.
Yeah, I feel like Roppongi Vice. I liked Roppongi Vice back in the day. Like, it must have been like nearly 10 years ago, actually. Maybe not that long, but quite a while ago. But yeah, since they sort of split up, I think Trent is a bit of an underrated wrestler. Actually,
completely agree with you there. Actually, I think kind of every match he's in, he is always performing 100%, and he might even be cursed by the fact that he is a tag team wrestler first, because I think he is kind of absolutely like a singles run away from a very good championship run.
Yeah.
And it's kind of rough because I think he's got one of the best DDTs in the business. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Roppongi Vice, a bit of a step backwards, and it's a shame for Chuck Taylor, I think. I much would have preferred to see Best Friends in this.
I agree. Although, can we just shout out for Cash Wheeler, carrying on this match just on his own? He took a hell of a beating.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, strong performances all round. A huge, huge win for FTR. They are just going from strength to strength at the moment. The crowd loved them, and turning them face, very good shout. They managed to kind of make that transition across very seamlessly, especially being associated with MJF before.
Yeah, I can't believe how seamlessly they've become faces, because for me they seem like the perfect heel tag team. They're always heels in my head.
They are an incredible heel tag team. The reason I think people love them so much is just that they are so good at wrestling, and they clearly are like absolute love letters to the history of wrestling, and it's kind of hard to dislike anyone who respects that much of the business, No,
and that's why I like the fact they've got all these belts, especially like the AAA one, and even I mean the New Japan tag belts are a weird thing, but it must mean a lot to them just having the history of all of those belts.
Yeah, absolutely, and I've got to be honest, they're probably one of the most decorated tag teams of all time. Just insane. We'll move on to the inaugural AEW All Atlantic Championship. What do you think about this new championship?
I'm not sure, because they've got a lot. It feels like they've got quite a lot of belts, but they have got an incredibly big roster.
Do you think? I don't know if we need it alongside the TNT title, but
no.
It's there, and so you've now kind of got an intercontinental and a US title equivalent.
There's talk of them having a trios title as well.
See, it feels like the trios title probably makes a little bit more sense than another singles men title, but at the same time, like, I suppose kind of the counter argument to that is that the roster in AEW at this point in time is so big, like having it limited to 2 men's titles feels like it's kind of a bit of a bottleneck.
Yeah. I mean, and it's great that the winner of this match, Pac, actually gets some singles.
So this match was maybe one of the best of the night, if not the best of the night. I absolutely loved this, and I mean, so it's obviously Pac versus Miro versus Malachi Black versus Clark Connors, and obviously we already know Malachi Black and Pac have been working together now for a good, probably best part of the year. Miro being back is absolutely heartwarming. He was on such a hot streak with that TNT title before going off with the injury, and even then they kind of played up that story so good with Miro versus God and his
that
neck.
bit where he called out God was so good. He's charismatic, so good on the mic. He's great in the ring. He's so good, Miro.
He really is, and I think kind of they need a little bit of time to build him back up again. But like, he's an excellent wrestler who can again play face and heel
I
so
thought he was
well.
going to win this match. He was my...
I thought he was going to win it as well. Quite like the what happened with him with the Black Mist whilst he had the not the accolade, the game over, whatever we're calling it, locked in. There's a shout out as well. Clark Connors, the Wild Rhino. Oh boy,
Where has he come from? I've never heard of him before.
he is LA Dojo, I think.
Is he?
I think he is.
He was amazing.
Goodness, wow. So obviously originally it was going to be Tomohiro Ishii in this spot, replaced with Clark Connors. Wowee, he is something else. I can't wait to see what he does, because every moment he was in this match, he was obviously fighting from underneath as the inexperienced underdog, but his entire gimmick and his wrestling style, it's very strike heavy, very New Japan, like just huge spears, and giving him the nickname of the Wild Rhino and having him spear things is a great combo. Big fan
his
of
spears
this.
look great as well. They look really crisp and nasty.
Really hope to see more of him in AEW, but wow, can't say enough how happy I am to see Pac with a title belt around him. Like, you've got to say that out of everyone in that match, the person who deserves it the most is possibly the person who's been with AEW the longest here. And you could see how much it meant to him as well, which was really nice to see, because he's been obviously bridesmaid for quite a while now in AEW, often playing number one contender, but not actually taking home the belt. So for him to be the inaugural champion, and I think that's going to be a real workman's title, I think kind of it's going to have a lot of really good matches around it and good feuds, and really looking forward to seeing where he goes with that.
Yeah, I'm hoping the Atlantic becomes like the Intercontinental used to be for WWE, like back in the day, where it used to be. Those were the best matches on like the WrestleMania cards back in the day, with the Intercontinental ones, like Chris Jericho matches, or
Yeah, I think that's quite likely, to be completely honest. Like, I don't think it's going to serve the role of like the step before AEW champion, just because, quite frankly, like the AEW title scene is probably a step above Pac at this moment, with like John Moxley, CM Punk's, Adam Page, Adam Cole. Like, there's a lot of wrestlers there who are probably bigger than the secondary title at the moment. But there's also a lot of it's just such a huge roster. There's a lot of wrestlers there that kind of would do well to be feuding for that, and also the TNT title. So interesting to see where that goes, but really good win for Pac and exciting stuff. And move on. 6-man tag action. Dudes with attitudes.
Yeah, I enjoyed this match, but I can't... The only thing I remember... There's two bits I remember from this match. One is Sting during his entrance coming off the...
Right.
And popping straight back up as well.
Sting is a madman.
Absolutely incredible. And obviously they do like this. They used to do this back in the day, the Young Bucks, with that back rake spot where you take ages to do the back rake.
The back rake destroyer.
This was another really good match,
destroyer.
but I just and to be fair, it was quite a nice sort of palate cleanser after some of the hard hitting stuff before.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I think it's a bit of a weird one. This, like, kind of, you have a lot of matches here which kind of have stakes. And then you just had this one, which sort of was a little bit of a kind of just a filler match, really. Kind of, it doesn't affect anyone in the story here. It's just kind of, the Bucks have to fight on the card. Of course they do. You got Sting and Darby Allin. You might as well have them fight. Bring in a New Japan guy. It was a bit of a nothing match, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't remember Shingo in this at all.
No, me neither. Originally, it was going to be 4-on-4. There was going to be Hiromu Takahashi.
Oh, of course. Yeah, he got a fever, didn't he?
Picked up a fever, so he was gone. And then Hikuleo was just on the outside. It was just it was an okay match. Nothing too special, I think. Huge spot from Sting at the beginning. A 63-year-old man jumping off that thing. Like, it's just wild, that.
Pop it. There's the pop back straight back up that really got me.
That's true, actually. There's at one point, I think, towards the end of the match, when he eats a super kick and just no-sells it.
Yeah, he does.
Bloody love that from Sting.
Really good.
Match was absolutely fine. Move on. Only women's match on the roster, on the card, was Thunder Rosa versus Toni Storm.
I like this.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Toni Storm took some bonkers bumps to the head on this match. Like, Thunder Rosa is a bit of a weird one for me. I like Thunder Rosa, but there's a lot of stories about how she's a little bit tricky to work with. And every time I watch one of her matches, I'm like, oh, is that shoot? Is this, I don't know.
It's not the first time we've heard stories about Thunder Rosa being a little bit awkward and difficult, but I love her. And do you know what? The only thing that she could have done which makes me love her even more?
What's that?
Start introducing some gold dust moves into her repertoire.
What did she do?
So she's started bringing in the final cut as one of her what she finished Toni Storm off with. It wasn't as good as Dustin's version of the final cut, but it was it was good enough to get the 3 count. She also started bringing in the gold dust taunt as well, the kind of thing. I mean, it's so good. I love a mentor and a protege in wrestling.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Especially when the protege starts taking in their moves. Just a wonderful little bit of a storyline there.
I hope this feud continues. I don't know how it can, because it felt like Toni Storm lost pretty clean, but I hope it does continue. I feel like there's a lot of legs left in this.
It's really good to see Toni Storm getting that title chance. She was never going to win it. Like, realistically, there's no one on the card at the moment that's been built up enough.
Oh, I think Toni can, because I think she's already quite over with the crowd.
She is, but like Thunder Rosa has kind of only just become the champion, really. And I mean, they kept talking about all the people she's beaten so far, but it's almost like it's a little bit like kind of padding your record, really. Like,
yeah,
I don't think they've built up a credible challenger for the women's title yet. Just generally in the women's division, like, it just needs more work. It's good though.
Yeah, I thought it was
coming along.
Solid match.
It was a really good match.
Next match.
And now we move on to match of the night, right?
This was my match. When I was watching this at home, I actually gave this a standing ovation, clapping it when it finished. This was, oh my god,
wow,
Will Ospreay. Oh, you total dick, but you are amazing. Like, he plays the heel so well. He's
England's own Will Ospreay, the IWGP US Heavyweight title holder, despite what Juice Robinson might have you think, defending against Orange Cassidy in an absolute barnstormer of a match.
So good. There's so many lovely spots, like Ospreay's with his crazy little counters and like little sequences. The bit where he shoves his own hand into Orange Cassidy's pocket and pulls out the middle finger. Just perfect. Orange Cassidy's doing the whole hands in the pocket stuff. And
the thing is, like, without trying to get too deep into it, because there's a lot of stuff around Will Ospreay which is kind of calls for him being a dick. And let's be honest, his Twitter game in the past hasn't exactly helped his attitude. That said, we saw him in Brighton. Were you there for that?
Yeah, that's the first Riptide show we went to with. Oh yeah, he was tagging with Thingy, wasn't he?
And he led the entire crowd in a happy birthday to his mum. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think I don't put him in the same league as a lot of the other people who have kind of come out as awful people in the wrestling world. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think he's made mistakes, but I think kind of generally who doesn't make mistakes, but also, I don't know, he seems to just be getting on with it and putting on some amazing matches.
Yeah, I don't know too much of the details about it. I heard it was just, he was like sticking up for, I think, Paul Robinson probably. I mean, which is obviously not great, but
no.
Paul Robinson is his lifelong friend. I mean, it's obviously a horrible position for him to be in.
Yeah, I think kind of that's exactly it. I think he has been put in a very bad position, and then this coupled with the fact that he is one of the best wrestlers in the world.
So good.
And arguably the best wrestler in the world.
I think he's gotten better as well. Like, his
adding that extra weight has really helped.
It really has, because I think it was actually giving him a lot of longevity, because he's not relying so much on the high flying flip stuff. He still does a lot of that, but a lot of the stuff he does now is just really fast, dynamic stuff in the ring.
I mean, can we just point out, he's a man who did 4 backflips in about 3 seconds during this match. It is insane. Like, the Great Britain Olympic team's loss of a champion gymnast, his wrestling's gain.
Yeah,
is what
I weirdly
would
feel
say.
quite proud about Will Ospreay, what he's achieved in wrestling. That as like a British wrestler, like
Do you
going
know
over
what,
to
though?
Japan and achieving everything he's done over there, and just sort of carrying Rev Pro over here as well.
It's one of those funny things because, like, you look at this card and you kind of look at Pac, you look at Ospreay, you look at Zack Sabre Jr., and you're just like, man, there are some good bloody British wrestlers out there.
There are indeed.
And let's not to say as well, Orange Cassidy in this match
Great.
continues to be, I think, one of the most underrated performers in all of AEW. I think because he carries the gimmick so well, it's easy to forget how much of an impressive wrestler he actually is.
Yeah.
And just how athletic he is. But more than that, his sense of how to build a story across a match. Every single time I watch him in a proper match, he crescendos that storyline absolutely perfectly to the point where you just jump out of your seat whenever the match ends. It's fantastic.
Plays the underdog so well.
He really does.
He's up there with Johnny Gargano for me. It's like good underdog.
That's such a good comparison, yes. I really hope at some point in time we get an Orange Cassidy title push. I don't know if he's ever going to be champion. I don't think that would work for him, but maybe it would. But I think kind of a good challenge.
I think
would
it
be
could work
entertaining
against
to
like
see.
a really nasty heel champ. Maybe like an
Yeah.
MJF or someone like that. I think that could work really
Make
well.
it happen, Mr. Khan. Come on.
At the end of this match, obviously we had a Shibata run in.
Yes.
Do you know what's the deal with his clearance?
I think he is on the way back. He had that exhibition match with Zack Sabre at Wrestle Kingdom at the beginning of the year. And he's obviously kind of had that sort of feud with Kenta where he took a bit of a beating.
If
at
you're
the end
coming
of
back
last
from
year.
a bad head injury, the last person you want to be facing is fucking Kenta.
I know, right?
Good lord.
But it's hard not to just smile whenever you see Shibata in the ring.
I still remember so vividly the first Wrestle Kingdom I ever watched. One of the mid-card matches was Shibata versus Goto, and it was the hardest hitting thing I've ever seen in my life. I was like, this is not pro wrestling. This is straight up like a fight.
I would argue that Shibata is maybe the most loved wrestler, full stop. I think he might be beating out CM Punk for that one. Like, I don't know. I think it's very difficult to not love Shibata. He's a great wrestler, great gimmick, great striker. I don't know if anyone would have anything bad to say about him.
No, it was good to see him. It was really good to see him.
Yeah,
Especially after what
absolutely
happened to
amazing.
him. Like, it looked really dark.
And the best part is the crowd just loved it as well. They were so into it. It was such a good run-in. And yeah, it's a very interesting and intriguing finish for New Japan generally to kind of maybe tease a feud of Shibata Ospreay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if something's going to get me back into watching New Japan, feud like that
I
could
was
be the
thinking
one.
this when I was watching this. I was like, man, I really want to get back into New Japan.
It's so good. I mean, have you seen the G1 blocks this year?
No, of course it's G1 season.
Oh, well, they've got 4 blocks, and we'll maybe have a little look at that later.
Next match.
We'll move on to Mystery Man of the Blackpool Combat Club versus Zack Sabre Jr.
So before the reveal, who did you hope it was going to be?
The person who it was.
Really? I was hoping for Johnny.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I was hoping for Gargano.
So there were 2 people who it was being flagged as, and it was Claudio Castagnoli or Johnny Gargano.
I heard rumours of Gresham as well.
Oh, interesting.
I would have liked
I
to seen
hadn't
that.
heard that one. Sorry, did you say Cena?
No.
Oh, you would have liked to have seen that.
Cena.
That's just-
I would have loved it if it was Cena. Could
John
you fucking
Cena.
imagine?
No,
Oh my god. He would never have got such a big pop in all of his life.
Claudio Castagnoli is the right choice, in my opinion, to be in a fighting man's fighting club.
I'm going to pull... First of all, I really enjoyed this match. But I'm not that fussed about Cesaro.
Oh, John. I keep recalling back when Brett and me did our matches of 2020, I think, we ended up going off on a bit of a tangent conversation about how I would give anything in the world to see Tomohiro Ishii versus Cesaro.
Oh, that would be
And
good.
now it feels like we're not a million miles away from that.
No.
And Claudio, Cesaro, whatever we're going to call him, absolute workhorse of the industry.
Yeah.
I can't think of a wrestler who better fits into the ethos of this stable of basically the best in technical excellence than him.
Yeah.
A wrestler who does everything absolutely perfectly, and his biggest flaw is that his personality just doesn't push him far enough, at least in WWE. But maybe will in AEW.
Yeah, I just don't know what I'm going to see different from him in AEW. I think is that what, and even I liked him in WWE, but I wasn't like, oh, let's push Cesaro up to the top.
I mean, I really think that WWE missed a trick with Cesaro, and I would imagine that a lot of wrestling fans think that as well, just because of his ability. The problem with WWE, and we could make a whole podcast about the problem with WWE, but one of the biggest ones is that there was a point last year when Cesaro was pushed as a contender for the title, and he was essentially sacrificed to Roman Reigns as another victim. And even then, it was a little bit like he put on probably his best match in WWE in that time. And at that point in time, it was a real crossroads for them as to whether it was Cesaro is now part of the upper card, or Cesaro is just another touch the top of the mountain but then get kicked back down because you're not there. And you look at WWE at the moment, and you look at another Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar feud, and it's just like,
Yeah.
this is your problem. Like, you do not have enough top stars built up.
Is it a problem though? They're still making
Well,
like fists full of cash. I
suppose it depends. Like, from my perspective, it's a problem because I just don't want to watch WWE.
Yeah.
But then I'm not the target audience, so I don't know. It's a bit of a divide between what there's going well for them and what I think is narratively good story. But ultimately, I'm glad to see someone like Cesaro find his way to AEW, because I think he's going to do well in the Combat Club. I think he's going to thrive in AEW generally.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he will. Interested to see what he does. It's just, I don't know, just another WWE guy.
Yeah, I
does it
mean,
add anything?
Well,
We shall see.
I reckon maybe we're going to see Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta tag team run. That's where my head's at.
A bit of that.
He just finds himself in those positions. Fatal 4-way IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Hangman Adam Adam Page, Kazuchika Okada, Adam Cole, baby, and the champion Jay White.
This whole pay-per-view, when it was announced, the thing I was looking forward to the most is whatever Okada is doing. And this did not disappoint, except for one very bit at the end.
Okay, so I would say this did disappoint, but...
Do you not like this?
I didn't feel like it lived up to expectations, and I think kind of a fatal 4-way was a big mistake.
Oh, I have really liked this. I thought the sort of to and fro in Okay,
so let's have a what did you like about this match? Like what made it work for you?
I think everyone shone, and because it's a fatal 4-way, obviously it's really hectic. There's lots of finishes going left, right, and centre, but people like breaking up pins. The only thing as a downside for me is obviously just the finish, but it sounds like there was an injury there.
Yeah, I mean the finish was incredibly strange and sudden, and it definitely kind of marred the match generally. The reason I'm not a fan of this match is because I feel like Okada as a wrestler is, again, one of the best wrestlers in the world, and shows it off in these long kind of drawn out matches where he'll basically be a wrestler where anything you do, he can do better.
His drop kicks. Oh my god.
So good. Best in the business. But the problem with a fatal 4-way is it's frantic and it's a little bit kind of sort of just the last person to do a move wins. And I don't like that much generally in fatal 4-ways. So I think kind of it's got to have a really good reason to be a fatal 4-way, like 4 people who haven't feuded for a long time coming onto a collision course. This feels like it's a fatal 4-way just to simply get more names onto the card.
Yeah, and I think you're right. 100% was that. And like, I thought there was very little chance Jay White was dropping the title here, even
No
to
chance in
Okada.
hell.
Yeah, like it was minute chance, but it was still really enjoyable. And the pop Okada got when he came out, it made you feel really good about just the wrestling world in general. Like all these people here know who these people are. They're there to cheer them. They know their work. They're not these like hunkered down in their bunker just watching like Western wrestling. They know their stuff and they appreciate. He was going to be one of the greatest of all time.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's already cemented his legacy, and yeah, will continue to do so. But if I was to look over like the legacy of Okada and all of his matches and stuff like this one, for me, it was fine. It just kind of was a little bit. It's a bit frantic with fatal 4-ways, and so you kind of sometimes don't get enough chance to see what everyone does. I don't feel like kind of Jay White really did anything in this match, which is a shame because
I was impressed with him in this.
Really, I love Jay White as a wrestler. He's one of my favourites, and I just kind of, again, like I prefer his more drawn out long matches. I remember when I was watching him in the G1 a couple of years ago, and whenever he'd start losing, he would just kind of like basically lie on the floor and just dead weight everyone. And it was that kind of villainous kind of wrestling where he'd be lying on the floor and he'd just laughing even though he's been beaten up, and it's like, that's so good.
That is good.
And this was a little bit more kind of just conniving, sneak in, do the move, and then obviously the finish itself was a disappointment just because obviously there was an injury there or something.
Yeah, so Okada went for the Rainmaker on Adam Cole, but kind of looked a bit weird. Then Switchblade hit Blade Runner on Okada. Okada rolled out the ring, and then Jay White pinned Adam Cole in a really
very strange way. Right by the ropes.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. Very unusual. And then, yeah, of course, like Adam Page, he looked good.
Yep.
Kind of did the business. Adam Cole has been centre of a lot of controversy in recent weeks with people like calling him out on being too small and being too weedy, and it's like,
really?
Yeah, I don't think that's fair or makes sense.
I thought we were over all this stuff by now.
No, you'd think, wouldn't you? I would say that's kind of a very unfair criticism of a very good wrestler. I haven't been into his matches recently, but it has nothing to do with...
Yeah, on his day, one of the best wrestlers in the world, and, you know, probably been part of some of the best matches we've ever seen on this pod. Like his stuff in NXT was...
Oh, 100%. That's a legendary run.
Yeah, like seriously some of the best stuff you would ever see. But I enjoyed this match. Fun.
Well, that's good. I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but at the same time, like, I don't think it was bad by any stretch. It was just kind of... I definitely feel like there was a what could have been with Okada.
Just next year, I just want Okada versus Danielson. Come on, give it to me.
And so, on main event, a singles match for the interim Aew World Championship. Jon Moxley versus the Ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Every time I haven't seen a Tanahashi match for a long time, but every time I used to go into one, I was like, oh, I'm kind of a bit bored of Tanahashi. And then during the match, you're like, no, this guy's he's pretty good. He knows his stuff.
I love Tanahashi. I wish he was 10 or maybe even 20 years younger at this point.
I looked up how old he is, and he's not as old as I thought he was.
The way he moves doesn't make you think otherwise.
Yeah, he doesn't. But it doesn't seem to affect his wrestling. Like, he's still really quick.
He definitely doesn't wrestle the same style he used to, but it's pretty good nonetheless. He's a good storyteller. He sells well. He wrestles well. He's got some amazing submissions in the bank, and he understands how to work a body part as part of his matchup.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's much wrong with that by any stretch. I think it's kind of, Hiroshi Tanahashi is just a brilliant wrestler, and in my opinion, maybe he should have won this match.
Oh, it would have been great to have him as the interim world champion.
Could you imagine? Like,
it would have been so cool. Like, it would have been so cool.
To have Hiroshi Tanahashi as part of your AEW title lineage, I just think that's such a good idea. And that's not to take anything away from Jon Moxley, who is an excellent champion and, one of the best wrestlers in AEW, but it's just the unusualness.
He's been brilliant as well since CM Punk's injury. Like,
he
really been smashing it, yeah.
He continues to step up for AEW. He's the face of that company, and my only criticism is another blade job, which I'm getting a little bit...
Was it a blade job?
Oh, come on. He eats a clothesline. He rolls out of the ring. Camera cuts away.
Wasn't it? I think it was a...
Was it a sling blade?
Well,
he rolls out of the ring. Camera cuts away to Tanahashi. He's down by the apron. And then the camera cuts back to him. And it's like, oh, Moxley's bleeding again. And it's just like, yeah, okay, fine.
The only reason I thought it was like a hard way bleed job rather than like a blade is that it seems so out of place in this match. It didn't...
I thought Tanahashi looked a little bit uncomfortable with it all.
Wouldn't you be?
Yeah, I would.
Dude, just bleeding.
I would be very uncomfortable if I smacked someone with a move. Just full stop. I don't wrestle people, but if I did a wrestling move that I didn't think was that bad, and then they came back into the ring completely dripping in their own blood, I'd be a little bit freaked out by that.
Yeah, I mean, what about if it happened on the bus? That'd be worse, though, right? I guess.
I suppose so. Yeah. But anyway, so the match itself was a good match. It was a proper backwards and forwards match with a really strong finish from Moxley.
Really strong finish. I love that like bulldog choke as well. That looks so
it's such
mean.
A good submission.
It reminds me so much when Pac used to do the Rings of Saturn.
Oh, I really wish he'd start doing that again. That old brutalizer. So good. But Moxley goes over. He is the interim AEW champion and sets up a kind of meeting with CM Punk in some immediate future that, to be honest, I reckon Punk will probably go over with. But
oh, absolutely. And there will definitely be blood in that match, I reckon.
Oh, God, that would be bloody, yeah. But yeah, Moxley goes over, and Mox and Tanahashi are finished up when who runs into the ring but the Jericho Appreciation Society.
Yeah, this is my least favourite bit of the whole pay-per-view, actually. I just don't know if
cheapened it, didn't it?
It did cheapen it, especially when you had Tanahashi just lying there the whole way through this little run-in and beatdown.
Real shame, this, in my opinion. Like, I like Jericho as a servant of wrestling who has put his whole life into this career, but there are some times when you almost want to tell him enough is enough, let everyone do their part here, you don't need to be the most kind of involved. And I think this was some bad Jericho stuff. This is kind of when it's like, mate, there's a huge roster here of wrestlers.
Cause it's obviously that this match meant a lot to Moxley, because obviously that period where he was having those like matches with people from Japan a little while ago, and that obviously meant a lot to him there just because of his history of wrestling and how much he appreciates it. And they had that little moment at the end where they had words, but it would just been nice just to have a bit more of that, rather than
I think so.
Have the bit of breathing space for Moxley to be crowned as champion and sort of.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, this ending here kind of went from pay-per-view to episode of Dynamite because it had that run-in, and it just wasn't welcome here. And it was just like, it didn't make me think like, oh, those dastardly heels are gonna have a kind of, they get theirs when they fight next. It gave me none of that. It just made me think, I've just watched like a match between two people who obviously come from very different wrestling backgrounds and have a lot of respect for each other, and then you've just got this intruder kind of sort of thinking about himself setting up his next feud match, and it just didn't do anything for me. What I did like was the attention to detail with Claudio Castagnoli and Eddie Kingston still hating each other. So
why would they hate
these
each other?
guys? All right, I'm glad you asked. Claudio Castagnoli and Eddie Kingston feuded in Shikara back in 2009.
Wow.
I know, just before Cesaro joined WWE. These guys had basically a trio of matches where they flip-flopped who was face and who was heel. It was essentially like Eddie Kingston accusing Cesaro or Claudio of being a heel, like a dickhead the whole time, and then it turns out he was, and then they had this backwards forwards match. Now, what's fascinating about this is that the feud was never finished. Claudio basically got the last win over Eddie Kingston, which was a dirty win at best in Eddie Kingston's hometown, and then basically went off to WWE. So
I'd be up for Cesaro Kingston feud.
oh yeah, definitely. And I think kind of that builds a very fascinating storyline for him coming in. And yeah, can't wait to see that.
Why did he get his entrance music when he came in though? Like the run-in at the end. I thought that was really weird.
It was. I think they must really love that theme song. It was kind of like a classical symphony, wasn't it? But on an electric. It was
weird.
very strange.
It's just strange that during a run-in you'd have someone's entrance music.
But you would say as well that he got the biggest pop of the night when he made his original entrance, so maybe it made sense. But yeah, that's AEW versus New Japan Forbidden Door. So we're going to go straight to star performer, I guess. Who was the star performer for you, John?
Will Ospreay for me.
Good shout. For me, probably Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
Those two just had a really good match.
So good, that match. Oh.
And then, yeah, pay-per-view rating out of 10.
Well, I'm going to give this a 9. I absolutely love this pay-per-view, except for the very last bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I am going to give it a 9.5. I thought this was an excellent pay-per-view with one problem, which was basically not enough women's matches.
Yeah.
And, yep, just kind of need to make a bit more. But the actual matches themselves were really good. And that would make this pay-per-view one of the highest rated we've ever watched. However, texts were sent to Brett.
Oh, did you? Oh, I thought Brett would score this high.
Brett has scored this high, and Brett has given his star performer as Zack Sabre Jr. and given it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Oh, it's so hard to please, old Brett.
Which I think is a fair score. I can't fault him that much. I'm not Adam. I'm not going to do that. But it does mean that AEW and New Japan Forbidden Door gets an 8.83 out of 10, which is still incredibly high.
Super pay-per-view.
Oh, face first into the apron of the ring. There's very little padding there. A dangerous area. It's not wrestler friendly, I can tell you.
So, when does the G1 start? I might have to dip my toes into the G1.
Let's have a look. Cut some of this out, I think. G1 Climax 2022 starts July 16th. And these blocks are big time. So we've got 4 blocks. Block A. Jonah.
Jonah Rock.
You know, Jonah Rock, yep. Decent wrestler.
Yeah.
Filthy Tom Lawler. Have you ever seen him before?
No.
Solid. Big guy in MLW. Was the champion there. He wrestles in, like those Rick Steiner earmuffs.
Oh, I think I have seen the guy. I've seen a photo of him. I know the guy, yeah.
Solid wrestler. Bad Luck Fale.
Ugh.
Gotta fill the
Still
numbers.
knocking around.
Lance Archer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Jeff Cobb. This is a big man block, this.
Yeah, it is.
Kazuchika Okada.
Ooh.
And the ace, Toriano.
Did Lance Archer have a killer match with Okada at another G1 before?
He has.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Lance Archer has gone from strength to strength since kind of like New Japan. So, looking forward to seeing him back in a G1 tournament. Of course, kind of Okada will be winning Block A, but
Never
even
know.
then, yeah. Not to mention Toriano. Just want to point out Toriano.
Maybe this is his year.
All of those guys. Block B, Chase Owens.
Ugh.
Yeah. Greater Khan. makes up the numbers. Sonada.
Oh. Is he still rocking the big hair?
I'm not sure. He looking more and more like a lion.
Oh, okay.
Tomohiro Ishii.
Yeah.
Tamatonga. Taichi.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And definite block winner, Jay White.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a good block,
MV
though.
block.
That's an interesting block.
Yeah. C block. This is where things start to get a bit interesting. So Aaron Henare, who's okay. Kenta.
Oh, yeah.
Zack Sabre Jr.
Oh, hello.
Hiroki Goto.
Oh, I love a bit of Goto.
Evil. Notable by his absence, Tetsuya Naito.
Is he still injured?
Maybe. I guess he'll be back for G1. And Hiroshi Tanahashi. So, tasty block, that one. Hard to see past Naito winning it.
I don't know what's his standing at the moment in New Japan.
He's always a chaser, never a winner. And then block D, David Finlay. Pass. Yujiro Takahashi. Pass. El Phantasmo. Pass. Pass. Yoshihashi.
Pass.
Yeah, come on. Juice Robinson.
I always had a soft spot for Juice, and I do like his new crazy look.
Yeah, he's always one to reinvent himself. Shingo Takagi and Will Ospreay. So, block D, kind of two potential winners there in Shingo and Will. Hard to see past Will. It's an interesting G1 this year.
Yeah, this has definitely made me think I'm going to try and watch some G1 this year.
Oh, maybe we can discuss it on the pod.
Yeah.
And there we go. New Japan and AEW Forbidden Door discussed.
Boom.
Amazing stuff. And if people disagree with our opinions, John, how do they get in touch?
Well, they can email us hardest part of the ring at gmail.com, or they can get us on social media at hardest part pod. If you would like to give us a little donation, that's always much appreciated. You can do that at ko-fi.com HPOTR.
And for anyone who didn't catch that, that's ko-fi.com/HPOTR.
There we go.
There we are. We are done. 2-man podding. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Sam. Well hosted. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to chat to you. We'll be back at some point in the immediate future, but for now, that was the hardest part of the ring.
That is the hardest